I think what we need now is to flush out the auxiliary collapses that are going to occur because of accounts that, let's say, public mining companies had with FTX or other hedge funds that have obviously over the weekend gone to zero in their accounts. Now, first, I have some disclosures here. Okay, number one, I'm a paid spokesperson of FTX, so I've been dealing with their management. I've spoken to Sam last week on Thursday. I also have corporate accounts in FTX. I'm also a shareholder of FTX International and FTX US. So now we got that out of the way, I just want to make sure I'm being very transparent on this. But we're not finished with the collateral damage. And so to your question, this is a bottoming process. An event like this is very important because it's finally going to have several impacts in areas that we need. It's going to accelerate regulation, number one. As we speak, I'm at the governor's conference in Orlando. This is topic number one in financial services. The amount of discussion going on last night and certainly today about this situation is going to move. It's definitely going to move legislation in the House. There's no question about that. This is a defining moment. But what we don't know is how many other dominoes are going to fall yet. We need that to finish out.
Shark Tank star and entrepreneur Kevin O'Leary isn't giving up on crypto. Although the businessman was one of the many people who invested in the now bankrupt FTX crypto exchange, he still thinks digital currency is the best way to protect your cash. FTX filed for bankruptcy last week after millions of funds vanished from the firm shortly after founder and CEO Sam Bankman-Fried resigned. O'Leary revealed that despite having multiple citizenships, which allows him to disperse his earnings at his discretion, he's choosing to keep his assets in Canada with BitBuy, which is a broker-dealer attached to the WonderFi crypto exchange.
This is going to help quite a bit in stabilizing what the rules are going to be because crypto is not going away. And that is still of great interest to institutions that still won't invest in it because they don't have a platform to do it on. For me, it's moving under the Canadian order. I'm going to stay there until you can show me policy and regulation in the U.S. All of our assets will remain there because we've got a government, the government of Canada through the Ontario Securities Commission, controlling, watching, regulating every single account there. For all and frankly, what's going to happen is a lot of money, institutional money, is going to leave unregulated exchanges and try and find other places like BitBuy to put their capital, because what else can we do? We need regulation.
Shark Tank star Kevin O'Leary, aka Mr. Wonderful, has investments in FTX. Following the collapse of the crypto exchange, he said it's a turning point for the industry, emphasizing the crypto bottom is in. He is now pushing for crypto regulation.
You mentioned you spoke to Sam Bankman-Fried last Thursday. What was that conversation like? What was the mood, and did you learn anything?
Yeah, let me explain the context of that conversation. On Wednesday of last week, the whole world knew that there was a liquidity issue at FTX and that the hold on the balance sheet was somewhere between $6 and $8 billion. Now, I work in the indexing market for sovereign wealth and pension, and so we were getting a lot of inbound requests about information about the situation because that's the kind of money that an institution or a sovereign wealth fund can put to work if they thought there was an interesting opportunity. And in financial services, illiquidity events or liquidity events like this can be interesting investment opportunities if you think it's a legitimate investment and it's not going to issues with the regulator. So the timeline of that conversation is I put a message into FTX. I wanted to confirm the amount being requested. Was it going to be 6 or 8? Sam called me back. Very, standard conversation. He was, rational, and we had that conversation about confirming what the amount was going to be. The amount was $8 billion. That's what they were looking for. So I went back to these various entities that were asking me about it. And by that time, the SEC chair was on the air around the world. I think the network was CNBC. And he made it clear that they were going to come down hard on this situation. So the minute that occurred, that was the end of any sovereign wealth fund's interest, because they index in the S&P 500. They have to be compliant with the SEC. And so, if you're a sovereign wealth fund making $250 million a day, the only market you can put it into to park it is the S&P. It's liquid enough to absorb that. So they don't make moves against U.S. regulators. And that was, I think, the last. I know that was the last time I talked to Sam, and then the other events unfolded as you saw. There was no way to get that $8 billion onto the balance sheet of FTX with the regulator hovering overhead.
Shark Tank star Kevin O'Leary has spoken up about his investments in FTX after the firm filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. O'Leary has an equity stake in the cryptocurrency exchange and has signed a multi-year deal to become its ambassador and spokesperson.
I'm a big boy. I've seen this movie before. I will say, on a personal level, and I don't think if you talk to 10 people that knew Sam, 9 of them are going to say what a wonderful guy he was, and I'm one of those. I just think he's a very interesting individual. Over time, we'll peel this onion, find out what happened. I don't think that guy has an evil bone in his body. I've met his parents. They're compliance lawyers, Stanford. Wonderful people, very philanthropic. It was those, it's meeting the team there that gave me the confidence to get involved with this, because I wanted a platform, a robust platform, where my compliance department, my accounting, my financial people, and my own operating company and our auditors could look at this and say, all right, we can understand the transactions, we can account for it, and we can report to regulators as we must. And we did. The truth is, the FTX platform was very robust. It was very well designed. Hundreds of millions of dollars went into making that. And that's why there was sovereign interest and pension interest in the platform itself, because at that time, just before the gates came down, you got to remember, all of these funds got gated, towards the end of the week. And there they are sitting there. If somebody had provided the liquidity, and here's the interesting debate that was going on. Let me share this with you. So let's say your sovereign wealth fund, $8 billion is a rounding error for you. Do you really need $8 billion? And let's say what was on the table in the deal was ownership of FTX, which was on the table. So for whatever the amount is to keep FTX liquid and compliant, you could own it. Now, if you think about Binance and FTX, that's about 82% of the world's exchange. I mean, that's it. And that's a big, big chunk. So there was interest. And here's the real debate that went on. It really wasn't $8 billion required, because if you could put in, let's say, $2 or $3 billion, then open the gates and let anybody that wanted to get out, get out. The minute you open a gate, some large percentage doesn't use the gate because they feel they're safe and now can transact again, and they've got backing. That was the debate going on in the later hours of Thursday of last week. My guesstimate, and it's only a guesstimate, is the number that could have cleared FTX and kept it solvent would be about $3.5, $4 billion, which is not a heavy price to pay for what had been built up over those years. However, once you go into a situation where regulators are coming in and the whole thing goes south, there's nothing you can do about that. But for about 12 hours, that was an interesting conversation going on all around the world. FTX International, my shares in FTX US, well, we're going to have to write those down to zero, most likely. And that happens, This is not my first. It's not my first bad investment. It won't be my last, but luckily I make more good ones than bad ones. And so that's the way I look at it.
So, do you agree with Kevin O'Leary that we need regulation in the crypto space? Tell us in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you soon with the next video. Thank you so much for watching.